So basically this Reddit post says, how do you encourage your party to come up with a cool name for the group? I really want the discussion to happen in game, but I don't want to have a random NPC say, what do you call yourselves, and what are some creative ways y'all can think of to get them to come up with a party name? And yeah, that's basically the post of this sort of thing. So how do you encourage your party to come up with a cool name for the group? Now, I've had this discussion for a while now, and I've thought of a couple of ways on how to sort of tackle this sort of thing, just in my little bit of experience. So a lot of the time, or kind of as this person was saying, you want to make the likes of the players coming up, or the players and their characters coming up with the name a little bit more natural, right? Like in their sort of discussion, not necessarily someone just asking them like, hey, what do you guys call yourselves? And then they'll be like, oh, well, I don't really know. I will get back to you guys on that one, right? We'll get back to you. Not all the time, but most of the time they probably won't really think much about it past that, right? Right. Prius Spinach actually brings out a good point that I definitely agree with. Don't rush it. Best names come as commemoration of some epic or funny campaign event eventually. Heck, yeah, 100%. Let's look at the likes of Critical Role Campaign 2, The Mighty Nine. You know why The Mighty Nine is called that? They're literally called The Mighty Nine, and this is N-E-I-N, 9, like 9, all that stuff. They're called that because literally the group could only roll the likes of a 9. And also, they also had a German character in the likes of Caleb, who is Zimnian, of the sorts, and he would always say 9 like that. And eventually became just a running joke and a meme, and eventually they called themselves, well, the Mighty Nine, despite not even having 9 people in the likes of their troop, right? But making it come out the likes, or naturally of the source, is probably the best way to go. You can even have it where, for different sort of, what do you call it? When they complete different sort of quest lines and all that stuff, a way that I thought about it, and this is kind of the way I think Critical Role handled it. I think I could be wrong. After they handled the quest, they needed a group name to be able to sign off who completed this task. So they were like, as the party didn't have a name when they came, or when it came up to it, they were like, hey, you guys got to have a name, but we can't sign this or whatever. We can't pay you until you have a name. So it was naturally at that point where, okay, the party, they had been adventuring, they completed like 2 or 3 adventures together. It had been like 9 sessions, or I think 9 to 12 sessions or whatever at that point. Now they know each other a little bit. Now it's natural for them to have that little discussion. You can't really force making people have an adventuring name when it's only been 3 sessions, or even if it's been like 7 sessions. If it's only been a day in the span of like the party knowing each other, you kind of can't really give. I mean, they might be able to, you know, wiggle around with it, but it's going to be a lot more difficult and a little bit less realistic in my experience of them being buddy and adventuring party. They're willing to die for each other after, you know, 2 days, right? Yeah, that's just what it is sometimes. So you got to be careful about, well, what I've seen, you got to be careful about naming the likes of your party for them as the DM. Not everybody will appreciate the name that you give them. Not everybody will like the name that you give them, especially if it's a jokey or a meme name. That could go sour, whatever, right? That could go sour. So I don't really recommend telling or just naming the party for them. I at least would say, and this is my experience how it kind of works, giving them saying their company name or their faction name before the campaign kind of starts. So like if the campaign features like a group of people working for, you know, a company or a king or something like that, and the player characters, they are known as, I'm just gonna use the Voden Knights or whatever, right? That is their faction name. That's maybe fine, and then at least the players can talk about like, hey, can we change this name? I'm not necessarily a fan of this. I got a better name for you, right? Like, that sort of thing. At least get the party involved in the naming process, because they're going to be the ones being called by it and represented by it. So hey, why not get them involved?